You've heard of Rockefeller, you've heard of Carnegie, but what if I told you there was another man, less flashy, less talked about, who held just as much power, and maybe more? A man whose fortune flowed not from steel or oil, but from something even more potent, finance. A man who didn't just advise presidents, he outlasted them, who believed that money belonged in the hands of the capable, and that he was the most capable of all. His name was Andrew Mellon. And while history buried him under more famous names, he may be the most influential American you've never heard of. This is the story of how one banker quietly bought America. Andrew Mellon was born in 1855 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, an industrial crucible of soot, sweat, and steel. His father, Thomas Mellon, was already a respected banker and investor, and he raised Andrew not with luxury, but with discipline. The young Mellon didn't waste time. He didn't play to the crowd. He calculated, observed, and by the age of 27, he was handed control of the family bank. But Andrew Mellon didn't want to run a bank. He wanted to reshape the American economy. Rather than compete with the industrial giants, Mellon became their financier. He loaned money to Henry Clay Frick for coke ovens. He backed the nascent Gulf Oil Corporation when others saw only risk. He took massive stakes in Westinghouse, Carborundum, U.S. Steel, and most importantly, Alcoa, the aluminum giant. Andrew Mellon had discovered a quiet truth. Why build one empire when you can finance 10? His approach was subtle. He avoided the spotlight. But every time a titan of industry rose, Mellon's money was somewhere behind it. He didn't chase applause. He preferred influence without exposure. In 1921, President Warren G. Harding appointed Mellon as Secretary of the Treasury. It was a rare public position for a man so private. But once there, Mellon did not act like a guest. He ruled like an architect. Over the next 11 years, through the Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover administrations, Mellon reshaped the American economy from within. He cut taxes, especially for the rich. He reduced the national debt. He shrank federal spending. He believed in the trickle-down philosophy before it had a name. Let capital accumulate at the top, and it will eventually benefit the bottom. To Mellon, prosperity was mathematical, not emotional. And for most of the 1920s, it seemed to work. America entered the roaring 20s. Markets surged, credit expanded, speculation flourished. But prosperity built on leverage always has a price. In 1929, the illusion cracked. The stock market collapsed. Banks failed. Fortunes evaporated overnight. Mellon, ever composed, advised President Hoover, liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers. Let the weak fall, and the strong will rebuild. But the public had no appetite for discipline. They wanted relief. And the man who had engineered a decade of wealth now looked like the villain behind its ruin. FDR, entering the presidency in 1933, despised Mellon. He called him a symbol of greed and inequality. Roosevelt's administration investigated Mellon for tax evasion, dragging him into legal battles in his final years. He was now an old man watching his life's work become the object of rage and reform. But Mellon had one last move. With his power in government diminished, Mellon turned to legacy. He donated his vast art collection to the U.S. government. Rembrandt, Raphael, Van Eyck, masterpieces worth millions. More importantly, he funded the construction of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. It was a statement that beauty outlives scandal, that culture survives politics, and that while politicians come and go, Mellon would remain. So who was Andrew Mellon? A banker, yes. A financier, absolutely. But also a believer in a brutal logic, that the strong must lead, that wealth, once earned, deserved permanence, that government should exist not to equalize, but to enable. His policies didn't favor the common man, they favored the elite, and he made no apologies for it. He wasn't warm, he wasn't charismatic, but he was effective. He didn't ask for permission. He simply acted, quietly, efficiently, permanently. Andrew Mellon died in 1937. but his influence is still with us. The Mellon family remained powerful through the 20th century, founding think tanks, universities, and institutions like Carnegie Mellon and the Mellon Foundation. Today, Washington, D.C.'s cultural heart still beats inside a building Mellon envisioned. The tax codes he helped shape still echo in modern policy. His model of industrial financing became the blueprint for modern venture capital. And the belief that prosperity begins at the top still defines economic debates. Mellon never wanted fame. He wanted control. He never shouted. He whispered into the ears of presidents. He didn't build the engines of America. He supplied the fuel. And in the end, that made him something rare. A man whose name is hidden behind marble columns, but whose mind still shapes the system. He was not the richest, not the loudest, but perhaps the most enduring. Andrew Mellon didn't need America to remember him. He just needed America to run on the system he built, and it still does.